Moving from there, you have a raise hand button. This, if pressed, will let the host or other people in the meeting know that you have a question or you'd like to be noticed. Besides that, you have a speech bubble. This is going to be your chat. So if you ever have any questions, maybe your audio is not working, you can feel free to type in here. If you open this, you are given a text box at the bottom to enter anything. So I'm going to type hello, and you'll see a small little notification over that icon. Anything that's typed in this chat will correspond to actual Teams. So once we open up the Teams, I'll show you where that populates. So do know anything said inside the meeting is copied over to the actual Teams application. Next to that button, you do have a show participants icon. This is going to show you everybody in the meeting. So you'll see currently in this meeting, we have 12 people. I have the ability to invite additional users. So in that text box, let's say I wanted to invite Nicola Battle. I would simply type in the beginning of her last name, populate some of my suggestions. I would go ahead and click from there, and it would send her an invite to this meeting. Also on the participants, you'll see people that are muted. You'll see others that were invited but have not responded. If you're hovering over their names, you'll see 3 dots appear. You can click 3 dots. You can ask them to join, which sends them a reminder that they've had a Teams meeting today. I'm able to mute all the participants. So if somebody has their microphone on, I can click mute all. And it just lets me know that it muted everybody in the meeting except for myself. I can share this invite by producing a meeting link and emailing it out. It's probably the second easiest. I would say adding them individually would be the best unless you're doing a big group. And of course, at the very end, you have the leave meeting button. Does anybody have any questions so far covering the meeting icons itself? All right, perfect. As we move through, here's where you can decide whether to follow along or just watch my screen. If you're going to actually click through the directions, go ahead and minimize this meeting and pull up your actual Teams application. And if you're following along with me, I am sharing my screen, so we will make this full screen. And please, if you cannot see this, just unmute yourself and let me know. All right, moving forward with the Teams application. You'll see on the left-hand side over here, we've got different tab buttons. So you have activity, chat, Teams, calendar, calls, and files. We'll be going through these individually for the Teams training itself. So we'll start off with activity. So activity is going to be that big bell in the upper left. This is going to be a notification center. So anything that's missed or chats that are missed, meetings, if your Teams application is minimized, they will populate in this section, letting you know that you've missed either calls or chats. Also in this section, you'll be able to access your settings up at the top where the bold word feed is. If you slide over just a little bit to the right, there's a gear icon. By clicking that, you open up your settings window. So in general, I'm not going to go over all the settings, just some that might be a little bit helpful. You can toggle between dark and light mode, depending on your preference. All of your language settings are going to default to English, but you can enable or disable spell check at the bottom here. You can schedule an out-of-office meeting. We are going to talk about this in depth in a little bit, so just know that this is one of the places that you can do that. Clicking on privacy, we have do not disturb. So you can go ahead and manually set that. You can block specific contacts, turn on or off your read receipts. notifications. So while in Teams, if any chats or videos are coming in, you'll receive a small notification that slides in from the bottom right. It's going to be a purple box with a little bit of details. This is where you can change the appearance or the sound. You can turn off the message preview if you want more privacy, as well as setting chat, meeting, and people preferences. So for example, my meetings, really only going to have meeting chat notifications, and you can select from a drop down whatever preference. They are defaulted to kind of basic, all allow except for outside users. So if you want to toggle with those, feel free to. Next, we've got devices. This is where you're going to set your speaker or your video camera preferences. You can also make test calls from this window. I highly recommend, which I probably should have done a little bit better, making a test call before your meeting starts to test your speakers in video. And then the other really important one on this screen is changing your noise suppression. So if you have a lot of background noise, you're going to want to put that on high. If you have something playing on your laptop, like a video or music that you want people to hear, you can put that on low, and they will be able to hear a little bit. Moving on to app permissions, the only one you should really have turned on is the top media camera speakers selection. Your location is going to show exactly where you are, so we want to keep that off. But feel free to turn any of these on if you'd like notifications from external links or anything like that. And then finally, calls. Right now I have my calls turned on. Anyone who tries to call me directly or Teams meet, it will ring on my screen. If I don't answer, go straight to voicemail. We do have a voicemail box here, so if anyone's making audio or video calls, they can leave you messages. This screen is where you will configure your voicemail. If you click that button, you can record a greeting. You can set how you would like that to appear to others. So right now, my call answer rules, I let the caller record a message. I can turn that off, or I can transfer the call to somebody else. Let's say you're out of the office and this is important. You have a meeting coming up that you can't answer. And a couple other settings, out of office greeting all the time. Just a few other options. Any questions inside settings? Again, this is totally customizable. There's hundreds of different settings that you can play with. All right, moving right along. We are going to click on the chat tab. All right, some of you may have this first chat, the Teams training for today, already populated in your chats. Remember how we were saying anything that was submitted through the actual meeting chat corresponds to Teams. So when I sent that hello, it actually shows up in the chat dialog. So you can actually send chats through the Teams application or the meeting to talk to participants. And this is created for every meeting that you do have. You do have a chat that's automatically going to auto-populate. You'll see over to the left all of the chats that I've either started or have created via meetings. These do pretty much stay off to the left. If you would like to, I say delete very lightly because they don't actually delete. You hover over the meeting or the chat with the three dots. Click that. You're given some options to either mark as unread. You can pin this conversation to the top. You can mute this, so anytime somebody adds different, whether it be chats or other files, it will mute you, not alert you. So instead of deleting, we have the option to hide. And what this does is it takes it off from showing in your recent chats. So it doesn't actually delete, it does just hide it. Along with saying that, do remember that this is a work solution, so we do have access to all chats created, whether they're inside or outside meetings. And then you have the ability to leave. So if you have a group chat or maybe just with one person, you can actually leave that. It will let them know in the actual chat that you've left the chat itself. But it does not delete. If you wanted to start a new chat outside of something that's auto-created for you, up where the bold chat word is, if you slide over to the right, there's an icon. It's a square icon with a line in the corner. You would click that icon, and a new chat window will pop up. Now you can chat internally and externally. So for example, internally, if I wanted to chat Kelly Collins, I would type in the beginning of their last name, and suggestions do appear. Now, if you only knew first initial, it would populate more options. This is connected to our internal AD, meaning anybody that's in the office or works for the sheriff's office, whether it's detention or Leo or admin, they do automatically populate. For external, you would just have to type in their full email address. So this only works if your external users have Teams. If they do not have Teams, you can't send them Teams messages. So for example, katie.bell@wrl.com is an external user. They didn't find anything internally, so they're asking me, do I want to search externally? I would click that. And katie.bell@wrl.com does have Teams, so I would be able to chat externally from here. All right, so pretty straightforward. If you wanted to add additional people, I could chat Kelly Collins and also type in another name. Let's say Ethan Johnson, and it would start a chat with them as soon as I click in the text box. We're not going to bother them today. All right, at the bottom is where your text box is located. You can type new messages in the bottom. Using the icons, the A with the pencil is going to let you change your font preferences. So I can make that larger, I can color it, and however it appears in the window is how it's going to send in the actual message itself. Exclamation point is going to send with either important or urgency. If I send it with urgency, it's going to notify them for 2 minutes, every 2 minutes for 20 minutes. If I don't do anything with that, it's defaulted to standard, so it won't do anything specific. The paperclip, you can upload files from your computer. It does give you an option to use OneDrive, but we are not utilizing that at this time, so please only upload from your computer. We do have emoji capabilities using the faces at the bottom. We've got emojis. We have GIFs or GIFs, however you want to pronounce that. You have a search bar. Let's say you wanted to specify it to sons. Next to that, we have a sticker icon. These are still pictures that you can select from. Again, you have a search bar, and you can narrow that search down. And last icon that we're covering is looks like a calendar with a plus sign. I can easily schedule meetings with individual users or groups that I've started from this. And you'll see it auto-populates because I started that chat with Kelly. It automatically adds her to my meeting. Here, even though I didn't have a meeting with other people, I can add users, say Ethan Johnson. I can add a title, change the date and time. Now, a cool feature about Teams is underneath, you'll notice it says suggested with a couple times. Let's say Ethan had a meeting from 9 to 9:30. It would suggest other meeting times that we could use that wouldn't conflict his schedule. So it is comparing everybody's schedule to make sure that everyone can attend. You can set if this meeting repeats, daily, weekly, monthly, or custom. Skip over the channel. That's going to be for something that's released later on in the year. And for location, One thing to note about Teams is any meeting that you start inside Teams is auto going to generate as a Teams meeting. You cannot schedule regular meetings through Teams. So even though the link is not listed here in the description, once I send out this invite, that link is going to produce in the just below the meeting notes that I include here. So again, Teams does not create regular in-person meetings, only Teams meetings. It does give you a location selection. Once you click it for the first time, it'll give you courthouse or detention facility. So let's say you wanted an in-person meeting, but didn't mind the link being auto-generated. Technically, you could produce them here. It does give you the options, and it checks with the times that are set for different classrooms that are open in both the courthouse and the detention facility. But I would make sure that you type in the meeting notes, this is in person in this location, because again, that meeting link will generate in this setup. All right, to send it, you would just click up here in the upper right-hand corner, the send, or you could close this out and it will not save your changes. It will ask you if you want to discard or keep editing. And that will go away. It'll bring you back into your chat once you're done. Once you're done typing your messages, if you want to hit enter, or if you want to hit this little paper airplane down at the bottom, that's going to send through. I'm not going to bother Kelly this morning, so we are just going to leave that as is. Towards the top, where the chat's person's name or the participant's name is in bold, you'll see next to it that you have the ability to go into a chat, which is what we're in now. You can view files that have been saved, so anything sent through the paperclip will show up here for easy access. Let's say you have a long chat history. You can just see everything that was sent, files related. You can share from this section by clicking the share button. Again, you can upload from your computer, and it will show in the files as well as in the chat. And they will show up like these little boxes that they can actually interact with. If you click on it, it will open up in Teams. I do not recommend editing things through Teams, but it does open up kind of like a Excel mock application, if you would. You can edit and save through here. You can also close, make conversation notes on the piece or comments. What I recommend is clicking on the three dots next to the file and opening it in the actual, I can open it in a browser or the Excel desktop app, or I can even download the file to my computer. Once you download, you can access that in your File Explorer under Downloads, and they'll actually show up in your File Explorer. All right, so we've covered chat. Does anyone have any questions so far? I know that's a lot to take in. All right, just a few things before we move on. Up in the right-hand corner, you have easy video and audio call icons. If you're clicking them inside chat, they only go to the chat participant. So if it's just Kelly, I'm only going to video and audio call Kelly. If I had Kelly and Ethan, it would video and audio both of them. I can share my screen with them. I can add people to this conversation. Do know that when you add people, so let's say I want to add Ethan again, add Ethan Johnson, it's going to create a whole new chat. So I'm still going to have my, if I would have saved my other chat with Kelly, Kelly's chat, and you'll see everything that I saved with Kelly no longer appears because I added Ethan. So it does keep your private conversations private if adding new people along the way. And because I didn't actually submit anything, I can discard this chat. If I were to have sent a file or a chat itself, this discard button would disappear because it's saving in the background. So I discard that. Sometimes it does stay on your screen until you click somewhere else. So you'll see now I cannot get back to that chat, Kelly and Ethan. And I'm back to a chat that's already established. All right, moving forward. We have the Teams button. This is the tab that we're not utilizing yet. This will be released later on in the year, but do know that teams and channels will be created within the departments. They're going to be decided by the supervisors, and we will reach out shortly to set those up. So right now you can go ahead and skip over Teams and move right into your calendar. So as you can see, my calendar is super busy. One way to differentiate between Teams meetings and any other regular meetings is this dark kind of purple line in front of them. You'll see this one's a little bit different, has a hash mark. So these are all Teams meetings. You'll see once the meeting time has started, there's an easy join button. You can join that meeting by pressing this, or you can right or left click and join. You can chat with participants, edit the information, or cancel. If I left click on it, I can join, edit, chat with participants. So it's the same thing, just a different setup. This one gives me who the organizer was, and you'll see this one is located in a classroom. To show you something different, this one's located virtual, and that's just how they set it up in the meeting preferences. Does anybody have any questions on the actual event setup or how they appear in your calendar? All right. Do you know anything that's created in Outlook will translate into Teams? So some of these, let's say I have my water bill, I set up in Outlook. It's going to translate and show me that in Teams as well. So anything created in Teams will go into Outlook. Anything created in Outlook will go into Teams. I can toggle between weeks by using these arrows at the top. It does not go by or day to day. It actually switches to the next week. So you'll see this is the 19th, shows me everything I have. If I wanted to go back, again, it goes back a week to the 12th. I can change these views over in the top right. I can view it one day at a time, work week, which is Monday through Friday, or a full week, which is Monday to Sunday, or Sunday to Friday, Saturday. I don't know. We'll just see. Sunday to Saturday. There you go. And again, by using these arrows, it skips the whole. So if we have it on week, it'll skip Sunday to next Sunday. In the top right, I have the ability to meet now. This is a spontaneous meeting. So let's say Kelly Collins and I were working on something. We're like, hey, you know, let's just go ahead and start a Teams meeting. Instead of going through the process of actually scheduling something, I can just generate a link. It will produce. It was already copied to my clipboard, but if I wanted to copy it, just click that little button right next to it. And I could just send her this. We can hop on a shared meeting space. Makes it a little bit easier. I can go ahead and start my meeting from here. Creating a new meeting, I would just click this new meeting icon. Opens up what we previously talked about. Again, I can add titles, all my information. By scheduling through Teams, again, it does create a Teams meeting. It will generate a link, and I will show you what a Teams meeting looks like. Invite. And it has all the capabilities of adding locations and everything like that. All right, so that is pretty much the calendar. And just trying to make sure we covered everything. All right, moving into calls. I will say this is probably the #1 tab that I am in utilizing Teams other than chat. This is going to be where all of my contacts are stored. I can make calls from this screen. I can set up, easy groups to access. If I wanted to make a call to somebody that's not already in my contacts, the search bar at the top, I can click on, let's see who's not in. I can click on somebody that's not already a contact. It will open up a chat with them, but this is where I can video and audio call. Back into calls. If I wanted to make a call, I could also come to this bottom left box, type in the name of the person. Oh, they're already in there. Collins. They auto-populate, or they are in suggested. You just click on them and you'll see that these two bottom buttons for audio and video call do fill in. You'd be able to click on these and it would call that person directly. All right, for speed dial, again, these are all the contacts that are saved. I can create new groups by clicking this new group button up in the top right. I can name the group. And you'll see it pops up below my existing contacts. I don't have anybody in this group, so not a lot pops up. If I go over to the three dots located on the right next to the team name, I can add contacts to this group. So if I wanted to add, so this is a little bit of a glitch within Microsoft. Usually the names will pop up below, but you'll see they actually popped up in the very bottom right corner. Sometimes they pop up directly below, sometimes they don't. So let's say I wanted to add Tish Jones. I would add her, she pops up directly in my group that I just put her in. The three dots located below their names, I can remove this person from this group. I can add them to speed dial, which is like a favorites, or I can chat them. I can also video and audio call from here. Going back to the team name three dots, I can delete or rename. Now we'll go ahead and delete this group, confirm that. Again, it's not going to go away until I click on something else and come back. So that pretty much covers your contacts. Within the chat section itself, if you have an individual user that you'd like to add as a contact, she's probably already one of my contacts. Let's add Tish Jones. Oops.
Geez, Brandon. I'm good.
For now, I'm not sure how long.
Bazemore.
It's not available
All right,
at the moment.
So we can right click on a new chat started and add them to our favorite contacts. So once I click this, if I go back into my calls, you'll see it adds Elijah Bazemore to my favorites. And from here, I can remove him from this group, add him to a different group, different things like that.
Okay, let me
Contacts is going to be a rolling list of all of our contacts, so they're not separated. History, I have a history of all my calls, so you'll see I called Maquilla. It was an incoming call, so she called me. Lasted for 2 minutes and 2 seconds, and that happened on June the 4th at 3:52. The three dots will let me call her back, chat, or I can add her to speed dial. And again, that just adds to my favorites list. Finally, we have voicemail. Any missed calls, people can leave voicemails. It'll have an audio recording, so much like this icon underneath. You can press play. It'll have the audio as well as be transcribed on the side. So you'll see an auto-generated text bubble with what was contained inside the audio file. Do remember that this is artificial intelligence-y, so it might not be word for word or be exact to the audio recording itself, so I would suggest listening to it as well as reading it. And that pretty much covers calls. Files, we're not utilizing OneDrive, so this is going to look completely different on your end, but you might utilize the downloads. So like we talked about earlier inside chat, if I downloaded a file, it not only shows up in my File Explorer under downloads, it will also show up in my Teams downloads as different things that I have downloaded. If I wanted to open up where it's located in the File Explorer, I could do that. And last thing we talk about before we exit out of the Teams application is going to be our statuses. So by clicking on your initials, it opens up a profile. You'll see your full name, email address. I can set a different status, available, busy. I can set it for duration. So if I wanted to appear as away for the next 2 hours, I could do that. If I wanted to set a status, I could type out a message here. I could add people to notify. So let's say I wanted to tell Ethan Johnson that I am out of the office. I would just at Ethan Johnson and continue my message. It will let him know directly. And again, I can set that status for any of these options. This is the second location where you can schedule out of office. Once you toggle that window, this is everything that's going to be sent. So I have my pre-entered out of office message here. Whatever you use previous is going to save. I can alter this. Once I turn on out of office for Teams, it is going to turn on your out of office for Outlook. Once I turn it off, whether I turn it off in Outlook or Teams, it's going to correlate to both. So do keep that in mind. I can set this for a specific amount of time. If I did not set this for a specific time, it would just turn on until I turn it off. And I would do that by saving, but I do not want to turn this on, so I'm going to cancel out of this. All right, and that pretty much covers the Teams application. We do have one other quick mobile phone application to go over, but this is the meat of Teams. Does anybody have any questions? Perfect. All right. So the last thing we're going to talk about today is the mobile manual. You do have the ability to download the Microsoft Teams application on your mobile device. And here I've got different views from an iPad, an iPhone, Android. I think this is a Windows phone. And you'll see they relatively look the same. So we're going to talk specifically about an iPhone. That's just because that's what I have and could take screenshots of. But do note that it does look a little bit different on Android, but you'll see the same settings for icons. Just like we went over, those different tabs, activity, chat, Teams, calendar, calls, they will be located at the bottom of your phone. Once you click on them, the actual screen will toggle over to whatever tab you're on. So this is activity. Again, it shows your feed, your notifications, anything pops up here. In the chat tab, same icon to start a chat, located in the upper right. I think Androids actually have a button that's produced in the lower left or right. It's purple, but it has that same icon. Rolling list of your chats. If you wanted to hide or mute, you would slide the chat over to the left and it would produce those more and unread buttons. By clicking the more button, that's where it gives you your pin, hide, or mute selections. Inside a chat with a person, you'll see I have Kelly Collins' chat pulled up. My files are showing, as well as the ability to video or audio call. Located near the top, I have that chat, files, and more option. Again, by clicking on files, it's just a rolling list of the files submitted in the chat. So they show inside the actual chat, as well as under the files tab. Just like the desktop application, once you click on them, they will open up in Teams. On the mobile side, you can only view them inside Teams.
Okay.
You cannot edit. Calendar, the plus sign in the top right, that's how you're going to start your new meetings. Your calendar events will show up stacked. If it's a Teams meeting, again, it's got that purple line as well as a join button. Anything that's an in-person or not Teams related will show up in gray, but they will give you full detail. You'll see this meeting on the 8th is on the first floor training room. When I start a new meeting inside the mobile app, I'm able to still add titles, add people, select date and time, as well as the location options. It does give me the courthouse and the detention facility. But again, anything started in Teams creates a Teams meeting link. So it will send with a Teams meeting link. And finally, calls. You would type in their name in the 2. It would pop up your little icons to make audio and video calls. Once you make a call, you can select your video and mic settings before joining the meeting, so you have a little bit of time. You can also select your background effects. So if you wanted to have your face with the galaxy in the background, you're able to do that by clicking background effects. When you do have incoming calls, the name of the person will show, as well as if it's an audio or video call, and you'll have the ability to decline or accept. And these are just a few meeting views. So this first one is a one-to-one call. The second one is somebody who's chatting with somebody that has their video turned off. I've got a group setting, and then I've got somebody presenting. So you will be able to see presentations via your phone. Inside the actual call, you still have the meeting buttons for turning on or off your camera or mic. You have the 3 dots, which does give you the recording option, as well as sharing your screen. You can edit your background effects here or add different emojis. And I've included a couple links at the bottom. So that covers Teams, desktop, and the mobile version. Does anybody have any questions? All right, I've made a couple notes just to cover a few last minute.
So Caroline, I did have one question. I just want to
Yes.
make sure I understood what you just said.
Okay.
Teams will you can do an out of office for teams that will turn on Microsoft Outlook, but Outlook won't turn off Teams. Am I correct?
Almost. So they do correlate. So anything, if you set your out of office in Teams, it will turn on your Outlook. If you turn on in Outlook, it will turn on your Teams. So either way you set it up, it'll turn on in both applications.
Okay.
Good question. Anybody else with questions? All right. I am going to stick around in this meeting for maybe about 5 to 10 more minutes. If anyone has any questions, feel free to jump back on. This was recorded. I definitely am going to send this to, I believe, Tish Jones for her squad. If anybody else wants this recording, just shoot me an email and I can send that over to you. Last few things, if you have any technical issues, please call the help desk at 0776. If you have any just general questions, you can contact me directly at 0228. All right. Thank you so much for attending the virtual training, and I hope you guys have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Caroline.
Thanks. Have a good one.
Have a great day.
Thank you
I have
too.
a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you able to change your character or your background?
Character or background? All right, let's see. Inside, underneath that profile, if you click on your actual initials, you can upload a picture, remove a picture, but I believe that's the only kind of customizing you can do. This is always going to be purple. The only other settings that I could see changing are just the light and the dark, but other than the picture, that's pretty much it. Did that answer your question? You're welcome.
Yes, thank you.
Mhm.
All right, well, everyone have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.
For that 18 million. Yeah.